Welcome to Prince Jordan House. Exercise number 67 and 68, Sir Kailash Chandra. 160 words a minute. Be ready. Start. Mr. Vice Chairman, sir, this year the President's address given to the Parliament gives a well-conceived, well-prepared picture of the nation. I rise to support the motion of thanks which has been brought before the House by Shri Kulkarni. At the outset, he is pointed out that this year has faced a severe drought. Then he points out to the danger of internal and external forces that remind us of the secessionist tendencies, the terrorism that is prevalent in a very serious form in the northwest and northeast frontier of the country. This really requires attention of not only the government but of all the people of all the political parties existing in different parts of the country. In his speech, he has tried to remind us of the promises made in our constitution. It is our sacred duty to see that those promises are fulfilled. He has said that the ideals of secularism, socialism are enshrined in our constitution. These values have to be upheld, and above all, integration of the nation is also to be upheld. Sir, it is time that we did not discuss matters out of emotion. When we speak emotionally, we forget these high goals, we forget reality and rationalism. Sometimes it is necessary to see that healthy criticism is there. It is required in a democracy to rectify mistake of the government. It is a welcome feature, but when we speak emotionally, we forget these fundamental facts and obviously we commit mistakes. Here we should remember that we are speaking in the highest supreme body of the nation, where the future of the nation is to be built. When we are discussing all these things in this house about the goals of the nation, about the development of the national life, the whole world is watching us, so this factor is always to be kept in mind. Now coming to the second point about the external dangers, we know of the terrorists in the border states. Sometimes they are assisted by certain outside powers who are not happy with our development. Sometimes they are provided with the latest weaponry with ulterior motives. These things have been discussed in the house and they need not be repeated here. But we cannot be blind to ourselves. We have to look to these aspects. Many of the honorable members have made a mention of these things, and we must be prepared the everything. Sometimes they are supplied with sophisticated weapons. Superpowers are helping them, so we must be careful and watchful. Another thing is about the secessionist tendencies supported under the cover of religious fundamentalism abated by foreign agencies. This must be covered. That is the greatest danger in our country today. Sometimes chauvinism, regionalism and linguistic fervours create very dangerous tendencies, and if we do not think of all these things, these may come out and hydra-headed creature in future and create many a splitting situation in the national picture, for which we will be blamed in future, whoever is in power. It is the responsibility of all citizens, all political parties to look into these factors which have been rightly pointed out in the President's address. This year we have passed through the greatest drought of the century. Because this India had achieved something in the green revolution, we could sum out of it. Out of 35 climate zones, 23 zones suffered from scanty rainfall and a drought, and some parts of the country faced floods. Also, there was loss of crops and damage to crops. Production was much less because we had a buffer stock of 23 million tons, which was sound planning, and the green revolution had achieved some the country could face this difficult situation. At the same time, many honorable members have brought out in this house that the Kisans are unhappy. They are vibrating with new ideas, new expressions of rising expectations. What are their problems? Anybody who goes to village comes to know that the balance of trade or the balance of economic situation is not in their favor. The prices are rising and they are not getting justice. That is their feeling. Still worse is the plight of small and marginal farmers. The government is spending a lot on subsidies for food sufficiency by way of subsidized fertilizers and other things, but their share is much less. The dryland farmer and the small and marginal farmer have to do distress sales because in our country there is no proper marketing organization to help them. Unfortunately, we had thought that the cooperative would develop, but they have not developed, and the market marketing agencies have not developed, so they are the worst sufferers in the situation of rising prices. The other sectors enjoy a favorable position, they can command the economy. The farmers are very much discontented, for which we have to take proper precautions. That is what I want to submit through this honorable house to the government. Next para. Mr. Chairman, I rise to support this resolution because this matter has to be considered as planning goes on. Right at the beginning, I must say that this village industry, despite all brave talk on the part of the planning commission and the government, has been given a backseat by the planning commission, and I think a lot has to be done in order to reorientate the entire approach with regard to village industries. I generally agree with much of what has been said by the two speakers who have preceded me, and I should like to add a few suggestions to what they have said. Now, even when we were fighting the British, one of the indictments against the British rule was that it led to the ruination of our village and cottage industry. This criticism was absolutely justified, and the meaning of it was not fully seen at that time, perhaps as it is seen today. After independence, we have embarked on a policy of industrialization of the country, but in an underdeveloped economy like this, where we have got nearly 82% or a little more of the population living in the villages, you cannot have rapid industrialization merely by starting heavy industries or even medium industries in the urban areas and towns, whether they be in the public sector or in the private sector. They are of course important, and the development of such industries must be on a far bigger scale. That is what we stand for, but at the same time we must embark on a policy of industrialization of the rural areas today. There was a time when capitalist economists almost took it for granted that with the development of capitalism, rural industries must go, and in fact in Europe in the beginning of the 20th century, we saw in Germany and other places many small-scale village industries going out of existence as capitalism grew. Monopoly capitalism, which is growing in our country, also had a tendency to crush the small and medium industries, let alone village industries. The moment rural economy is drawn into the orbit of capitalist market, the tendency is there, and the laws operate for the decline of the rural industries of the type that exist. Now, this process is there in our country. Artificially, we are trying to maintain some. In the rural areas, you have nearly 3.5 million new job seekers every year. Rural industry must be viewed from the larger angle of industrialization of the country, from the point of its employment potentialities, and also from the point of view of raising the standard of living in the country. Yesterday here the planning minister was saying that unless agriculture looked up, national income would not go up still higher, and the standard of living would not go up. I entirely agree, but then in the rural sector of our economy, we must develop simultaneously the other sector, that is called the rural industrial sector, for promoting rural industries on a larger scale. That is not being done. Now, I found in our country, and we heard complaints that these industries were not getting help. The artisans are not only not taken care of, but they are sent to their doom by the government in many places. I found that in the south also many fine handloom industries which should be nursed by the government and developed with all the attention and care are allowed to go out of existence. Therefore, it needs a serious rethinking on the part of the commission as to how can we set about this task. It is not just a question of supplementing something, it is a question of developing a dynamic sector in our economic life in the countryside, because we cannot envisage a situation where industries will be developed only in the towns and the problem will be solved. Bigger industries and certain other medium industries will certainly develop and should develop in the towns. At the same time, small industries through cooperative state sector, individual enterprise, and through artisans should also develop in the countryside. This is how we can set up the rate of industrial progress of the country. These industries can cater to the consumers' needs to a considerable extent, relaxing our pressure on imports and also helping the development of certain vital industries apart from providing employment. The employment question is very important. Now, at the time of the last general election, the gentlemen of the Congress party issued a manifesto written by Prime Minister Nehru, in which they have said that unemployment would be reduced in the course of the next 5 years. At the same time, it was 53 lakhs. Now, when they went to the third general elections, the unemployment has gone up to 90 lakhs, and we are told by the planning commission that in the course of this 5-year plan it would have gone up to 12 millions. Stop.